Mr. Chair.
All right, we're back in open session. So at this point, if there's nothing else,
I can tee it up if you'd like, Mr. Chairman.
okay, if you would.
Mr. Chairman, based upon our discussions on the attorney-client privileged in closed session, we're back in open session now. I would request, if the board is so inclined, to set a public hearing at your second meeting in October or your first meeting in November for consideration of a resolution for restatement of the Osawatomie Improvement District, which really is the Lake Improvement District.
Okay, and before we do that, would it be appropriate to hear from Mr. Peterson?
I want to speak to the issue of the lid policy change itself. I have no comments or any input for what you just talked about.
Okay, is there a preference on which county board meeting we would like to take this up in? Last one in October, first one in November?
October 27th or November 10th?
If you're asking me, I certainly don't have a preference at all.
Well, this is the board members.
Okay.
You're the chairman.
All right, then I will set this for October 27th for our public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next on my agenda,
Does that need to be a motion, Don? It
It does.
normally is.
I think they can
Just set it?
motion and second it or set it either way.
I think the chair can set it.
Okay.
So now the policy.
The second item I have on the agenda for board's consideration today is I've been in conjunction with the Land Services Department, Gary and Jake. We've been working for a few months now on some proposed changes to the Lake Improvement District policies. I believe in the board packet there was a set, what that looks like with the proposed changes, and I did send you out a red line copy each individually so you could see the changes that I made. I thought that might be easier than trying to figure out looking at the old one to the new one. Primarily, and I'm not sure when some of the changes in some of the versions, but primarily the changes would be that it eliminates a reestablishment every 5-year requirement. So right now there is an issue for lake improvement districts that were created after that policy was adopted, that once every 5 years they have to go through the whole process and be recreated. With the way in which we've rewritten this, we've rewritten this and I'm proposing to you that would be eliminated. Also, currently in the accepting of donations, if someone wants to donate to a lake improvement district, they have to come in here, present it to the board. The board has to accept it only for the purposes of forwarding it on to the lake improvement district. This would take that requirement away because as the board, you have the authority to authorize the lake improvement district under the law, in my opinion, to accept that donation, but you still need to maintain oversight. And so the oversight then is that every year in their annual report, they have to tell you what the donations were, whether it's cash, in kind, whatever it was that was received, what they did with it, or whatever is appropriate based on that particular donation. If the donation's going to be prospective, so we're in 2020, and they know that they're going to get it in 2021, there'd be nothing that would prevent them from putting it in the 2020 report, just so that there is still that oversight that's maintained by the county board. There are a couple of questions or issues that I need to discuss with you, which I'm going to skip over for the moment. One of the other major changes is it moves from November 1st to September 1st when the annual report is due. And it puts financial penalties in there if they don't submit or other potential penalties if they don't submit the report timely. And so that's something that we're going to need to change, and I don't mean to throw anybody under the bus, both as a county operation and then hold the districts to strict compliance. we're a little lax if they don't get it in by November 1st right now. Well, then the Land Services Department can't get this information processed and get it to you, the board, for review with recommendations on a timely basis. And so with the way we've restructured this, that annual report and the budget both have to be combined into a single document, and they have to be presented to you by September 1st of that year. If it's not presented by September 1st, they look at some potential financial penalties. And depending upon what you would choose to do, let's say they wanted to increase their budget from 2020 to 2021, but they filed a report and proposed budget late, they might be stuck with their 2020 budget for 2021. I thought that was a pretty significant enhancement or enticement to make sure that you get your things in on a timely basis. And again, I'm not saying this over and over, but this has all been done with Land Services. I've met with Gary and Jake several times. And some of this has been discussed with the Osawatomie Lake Improvement District's attorney, Mark Severson, as well. Just for their input.
Real quick, Don, I think Commissioner Coring has a question.
Don, to this point, believe it or not, I do have a question now because
Okay.
of that. So let's say a hypothetical, let's say they don't get their report in and there's a fine. So are they using the money that they've collected from the people? They can use that to pay for the fine?
Of course.
So the fine would be assessed in the next budget year, and what their funding source to pay that financial penalty, because a fine is something I would say comes out of criminal court, just a lawyer being a lawyer, Paul, sorry.
Right.
What their funding source for that would be, I would have no idea. That would be up to them, but potentially that would be something that they would then take out of the monies they get from their membership as part of the approved budget.
But what if you have, Mr. Chair, what if you have a board that is not getting their reports in on time and it's consistently every year that they're fined? And then all the Lake Association members or the LID's membership, they're having to pay for their mistakes. Couldn't it be that we have a fine for the members of the board?
Typically, the fine would not be addressed to the specific
I
board
see.
members themselves, but since annually the LID has to hold an annual meeting under
Uh-huh.
law, and there's an annual election of the board of directors, I would
Okay.
assume if one or more of them are consistently the problem, they have the ability on an annual basis to address that issue.
Okay.
There, also, when you went through the document, you will have seen some redundancies in numbers 5, 6, and 8 in regards to budgets, what they need to include, how they're to be combined with the annual report. Typically, I do not create documents that are as redundant as this, but since it's somewhat of a change, I purposely put it in there so no one could say they missed it, because you would have had to miss it 3 times. And so that was intentional. I just wanted to point that out. I can answer any other questions. Otherwise, there were a couple of questions and a couple policy decisions for the board to make, which I can go to.
Any questions?
So
Go ahead.
question, Mr. Chair, so I know that in the past, if we've made any changes to things like this, an ordinance, we always had, I thought we always had a 30-day comment period, Rosemary, didn't we, or normally on something like this?
If I may,
Yeah.
Commissioner Corin, I'm not here asking that you enact this today, and frankly, when we're done, after we're all said and done, when it comes to the board for what position you want to take, I'm going to be asked that this be set on the same next date of October 27th for consideration. Typically, this is strictly here as an FYI because this goes in conjunction with our other issue, and instead of trying to come in separate places, I thought it was better just to put it all in discussion on the board. And this way, it's out in the open, everyone can see what we're doing.
And being, Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
being that we're making some changes now, there might be other lake improvement districts that if, I know like South Long Lake and Mike O'Brien, for
They have
example.
one, yep.
Mike O'Brien might have some ideas that might enhance it, that if there is a comment period, I mean, I don't know how, I guess I don't know how you're gonna do it, but I'm just suggesting that there might be other, this isn't just all about Osawatomie, this is a lot of different entities, and so I know that Commissioner Brecken likes to gather lots and lots of information, so We want to get all we can so we can make the right decision.
Right.
Commissioner Corrigan, when we were going through this process, Gary, Jake, and I had the conversations consistently that, no, this isn't just about Osawatomie,
Yeah.
but with this information, I was peripherally involved in lake improvement districts in the past, and some of the other information that you become aware of when you're working on a project. We tried to look at it as what is going to be best for all of the lake improvement districts in the county. At the same time, it's going to be a good position for the county to be in, to exercise its statutory authority and its oversight mechanisms, and what is the most efficient way for us to process this information and get it to you for staff time. That was primarily why I came up with the idea of the donations going directly to take one step away, yet maintaining oversight. So we did try to keep that in perspective.
Yeah, and can I say one more thing? So, and then one more policy that I guess I might be willing to look at, and I don't know if you've changed it in there, that if somebody's wants to set up a lid, they had, I believe it was like a 60%.
Supermajority. currently.
Supermajority.
That's one of the points I'm going to have, I'm asking for guidance on.
Yeah, supermajority, and I guess over almost the last 8 years, I guess I thought maybe that was a good idea, but that isn't the way it works when you go and when we elect somebody. We don't elect somebody with a supermajority. Even if a majority of people feel like this is the thing to do, I think we should consider changing that to 50% plus one. I would consider that, because I mean, that's just the way it works. I mean, a supermajority, pretty high threshold to attain, so.
Commissioner Brecken.
Yeah, Paul, I concur with you on that one. I think that, yeah, is that, again, this is a tool for our lake associations to be able to take care of their lakes, and I think they have the most care for it. We're not going to see the county or the state, take care of these lakes for them, and I think that taking a look at that and adjusting that for especially those, and there's a lot of lakes out there that are wanting to do that, but they're struggling with the supermajority. So I see that as a real positive to look at.
I'd like to bring in Mr. Peterson. He wanted to speak on this subject also, so give him an opportunity to speak.
Okay, I think I'm on.
You are.
All right, well, great. Well, that is correct, Mr. Chairman. I did want to speak about the 50-60% number there. I'm currently president of the Osawatomie Lake Improvement District, and we are in favor of the reduction from 60 to 50%, even though we're already established and it will not affect us. Agree with Commissioner Corrigan. It really makes sense to allow people who live on the lakes to go ahead and take care of the lakes, just because the DNR and nobody else is really taking the initiative to take positive action on it. Just a bit of history quickly here is that OSI started to fight the milfoil issue in 2002 with donations, but they weren't able to sustain it or gather enough donations to do that. So in 2005, and I believe we're the first lid in the county, we started working on that. So over the last 15, 16 years, we've been treating our lake. And again, this year at our annual meeting, our lake treatment company announced that this is the 6th year in a row we have not found milfoil plants in our lake. So it's a great success story for the county and also for the state, that if you take initiative and put the resources into it, you can actually improve or maintain the quality of your lakes. And so we would be in favor of that, and I'm sure there are other lids that would support that, in addition to what Commissioner Brecken said. They would also be in favor of that.
Very good.
The other issue that I heard Mr. Ryan talking about is the September 1st deadline. I think we would be opposed to that. Many of the lake associations have their annual meetings later in the summer. Normally we have ours in June. This year we had it in August because of COVID. And so actually ours was August 15th. That would give us 2 weeks to get the annual report in. That seems a little tight for us. and things usually don't slow down till September. I would be in favor of changing that date from September 1st to October 1st.
Okay. Mr. Ryan, do you have, see you're making a note on that.
I was going to say I am, Your Honor, sorry. I am. That was October 1st, right, Mr. Peterson?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. We'll certainly take that into consideration, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Peterson.
So at this point, are you just looking for direction on these 4 items that are,
I do, what I'd like to be able to do, assuming that Mr. Peterson is finished, I don't want to cut him off.
No, that's all the comments I had for you today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What I want to be able to do is get some guidance today, just general guidance from the board. I'll run through my 4 questions I have that I put the little comments. So I'm only half as dumb on a computer as I claim. I actually figured out how to put comments on by myself. With that direction, then we could submit a proposed finalized copy. I'll follow up with Land Services on the September or October 1. Obviously, we can receive information however the board wants. We can make changes as we always do when we go forward. I just needed to get this in front of you, and I thought it was a more appropriate, again, to do it both here than to do one here and then try to find out a committee of the whole, because this is more of a committee of the whole conversation. So it's a little unusual, but I'm nothing if not a little unusual some days. So,
Say, Mr. Chair, if I can ask in regards to the review of these annual reports, maybe Gary, does Nicole review those?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Brecken, yes, eventually Nicole does. Jake Free is also helps in she's basically learning or training on how to interpret the information. We're trying to get it consistent. You know, everybody does it a little bit different, but yeah, that's eventually who we would like to have do the majority of the review.
Okay. The only reason I bring that up is that she's also, you know, September still we're doing, you know, overseeing the landings and the staff to doing that, so she would have a maybe a harder time too if we looked at September 1st to be able to review those in a timely manner.
Gary?
Mr. Chair, Land Services would favor a later date, so October would be a lot better for Land Services than September. It's kind of a balancing act. If you go too late, then we struggle getting it enough time ready for you guys by the end of the year, and so October could be that maybe the best date. Thank you.
Thank you.
and part of the reasoning randomly just to pick September 1st is I'm assuming that once the initial reports are done, it's going to be somewhat repetitive. For instance, the budget's going to be changing some numbers. We knew it would be tough I knew it would be tough that first time. We can certainly change it to October. I see Therese has it up there. It's DR2, which is the second comment down, was the 60% supermajority to create. And then DR3, the next comment down, was it took 60% to get the petition to create it, but it only took 50% plus 1 to get a petition in front of the board to eliminate it. My comment was going to be, in my opinion, it should be the same percentage for each, whether it's 60 and 60 or 50 and 50 or whatever the board would decide. So I would seek some guidance on what the board might be wanting to see for consideration at the October date. And I've heard maybe go to 50%. I'm just wondering if that is how you would like me to proceed, Mr. Chairman.
Well, Mr. Chair, I guess I still would like to have these proposed changes sent out to all the lake improvement districts so that they could weigh in. I know Mike O'Brien is very diligent on our lake, and so if he had some comments that might even help, I think that we could all incorporate that all into one. So I'd like to have their comments so that if it's having an effect on other lake improvement districts, so I don't know, like a comment period and at least reaching out to them with an email and letting them know that these are the proposed changes thus far. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any intent not to reach out to more people, but again, I'm seeking board direction because I don't want to go down a path the board didn't want me to go down.
So,
So this would be to the current lids that are out there
correct,
and their board members, I guess.
correct.
So,
I made a note of that, Mr. Chairman. I'll meet
Okay.
with Land Services. So am I
Any-
hearing, Mr. Chairman, that the board would like me to change the 60% supermajority to simple majority?
I believe that's true. Commissioner Franzine?
Yes.
Yes. On both of those items,
And have them both be the same?
correct.
I would think that, Mr. Chair, there's not a whole lot of lakes that do not have lake improvement districts, so maybe there is, but
I'm not sure myself.
sure myself.
And then the last one,
The last one really, again, is, at this point, is superfluous. That was a comment, there was a discussion between myself and some other attorneys in regards to what that language should read. I think the way it reads now is fine. It puts the authority strictly vested in the board to modify and do what the law gives you the authority to do to lids. Adding language as allowed under Minnesota law is the same as you already have right now, but I did include it for discussion purposes. In discussing that with Mr. Halverson, he's fine with the way it's, or, excuse me, Mr. Severson, he's fine with the wording as it is now, and obviously the Osawatomie Lake Improvement District is as well. So I think that's a moot point at this. So I've actually received the direction I was looking for at this point, unless the board has more questions or wishes to provide me some more guidance.
oh, Gary, did you have something to add?
Mr. Chair, just point, we have 9 current lids. If you'd like, we could send out those emails directly if you wanted. We could even put a time limit, maybe a couple of weeks if they wanted to
Yeah.
respond back to those emails. And just for clarification, we also have a lot of lake associations. We could also send it to them if you would like, or we could keep it more narrow focus, but wouldn't be a big problem for us to send all that out. Oh, yeah, we can post it on the website as well. But those emails seem to really, get to where they need to go.
I think for now, if the board's okay with this, we would post it on the website and then just to the existing lids, so they know what the requirements are gonna be now. And then anybody coming in with a petition in the future will fall under the current, or the policy that we're developing here.
Sure. We'll make sure we send it to OSSI so they know we're making changes.
Okay?
Nice.
Gary, just as a reminder, though, this is coming back to the board on the 27th, so whatever time frame to get that feedback.
We'll
Get
have
it
that in your
within-
packet for you, for the 20, or if you want it sooner.
I think as long as it's in the packet for the 27th, on the
Yeah.
policy side of it, we're good.
So the 27th.
And it will not be my intention on the 27th, Mr. Chair, to go into closed session again unless I hear different from the board, or from Tim, from the board through Tim, however you would decide to do that, so it would just come for consideration
Okay.
on the litigation side of it. With that, I would just ask that you have the lid policies put back on the board, or put on the agenda for the 27th of October, in conjunction with the other item I appeared before you today.
Okay, very good.
I have nothing further unless the board has any other questions. I would, if I may, since I'm still under my time, like to echo what you've heard before, and just remind the public that when the school bus yellow flashers across the top of the bus go on, I'm not talking about the ones down by the blinkers, that means they're going to put the red lights on, and going through on yellow normally means you're going through on red, and I think in the 15 or plus years we've had a zero tolerance policy on that, we've lost one case. So Yellow is the new red. Slow down on yellow, because that means you need to stop. Thank you.
Okay, for the board, I have one quick thing. I want to remind everyone that this is, the month of September is the Mental Health and Substance Abuse Addiction Recovery Month. And I'd like to recognize the Crow Wing County Community Services leaders, Tammy Lewick and Nathan Bertram, who head up the adult programs addressing these issues. And in addition, almost every department in community services sees these issues frequently, and they do a great job. The Sheriff's Department, the jail, the County Attorney's Office, and the VSO office confront these issues also, and they do a great job in dealing with these issues. And there's also many community providers that are doing a great job out there in the communities. So none of these programs or providers have let us down, us or the county down during these difficult times. And so to all, I just want to say thank you for all they do and make sure that they get their recognition during this month. The sheriff did tell me about one case they just had over the weekend where it was a suicide. So the officers are out there doing what they're supposed to do, but as a county government unit, we deal with these issues all the time in the various departments that we have. So thank you very much. And with that, if no one has anything else, I would look for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Commissioner Coring to adjourn.
Second.
Thought we were going to stay forever. Second by Commissioner Hoag. I'll deem us adjourned.
You want me to call the roll?
Oh, you can call the roll.
Commissioner Franzine? Aye. Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Hall?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. County attorney votes aye.